What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to your third episode of the NFC North Roundtable. We're so excited. This channel continues to just take off like a rocket. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost at 1,800 subscribers in less than 3 weeks. We have the full confidence. This channel is about to blow up over 2,000 just like that. So if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe here to the NFC North Roundtable. We have your favorite host. I'll be bringing them in just a moment, but show your love and support. Make sure you go check these guys out on their individual platforms. We're going to get into that in just a moment, and punch that like button. First and foremost, at the top of the division, representing the Detroit Lions at 7-2, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dose of Dion. What's up, Dion?
DD, you're top notch at that, man. You are top notch at introducing. I got to give you the flowers. It's outstanding. Hey, first off, man, shout out to the chat, because I was going to say this when you were asking about, like, what has it meant, kind of bringing everybody together here. It's been the chat, man. I can see everybody that kind of comes over to this channel, and you're getting new names every week that I see on my channel that are rolling over here. So it's awesome to see it. And a lot of them are dudes that have been with me for a long time that has been over here. Like Ken, we got Detroit Villains in the building. So shout out to all y'all. And I'm glad the other teams are here too, because right now we're 7-2, so y'all need to be here to witness this as well.
Wow, listen, man, Lions are at the top of the division, but hey, I'm not going to give you all the love, Dion, because right behind you, representing the Minnesota Vikings, they on your tail, they coming for the Lions, one ball!
Oh, TD, damn, man. You need to be on my show to introduce us, because that's fantastic. Dion is absolutely right. And TD, I'm starting to think that you might be a closet Viking fan. You were rooting for those guys, but you know what? Things are good. It'll never not be weird that when you say that the Lions are at the top of the division. I cannot get used to that, but they've earned it. Vikings started off 0-3. Next thing you know, we rip off 6 of the next 7. We're 6-4, baby. Confidence is high. We're on the Dobbs train. It's feeling good. It is a beautiful story until the wheels fall off, and hopefully they don't. I'm just going to ride it out and enjoy it, because there's some very, very good things to be excited about. And just remember, 5 of those wins are without Justin Jefferson. Matamita in the house. Let's go.
Interesting, boy. We got Dose of Dion with the Lions, one bar with the Minnesota Vikings. They're looking to make a push, but hold on. Down in the gallows, we have a team that says 6 losses doesn't disqualify you. Last I checked, 11-6 can get you in the playoffs, baby. Shout out to the Green Bay Packers, Basarake.
TD, man, I'm glad you're optimistic, because last week was kind of lowered my optimism just a little bit. I was very confident going into that game. And the Steelers just still somehow just keep winning football games, but there's a lot that they did right and the Packers did wrong. But man, we're still here in the third in the division. At least we're still not at the bottom. We're still not the bottom feeders at this very moment. So let's get some Go Pack Goes in the chat. I keep seeing skull this, skull that. Let's get some Go Pack Go, guys. Come on.
Go Pack Go, but you just said at least you're not the bottom feeder. Well, that means you're throwing a little subtle jab at the bottom feeder. In the Chicago Bears, we have Ville in the house. Hey, Ville, don't let him come for you like that. Tell him you ain't going out last.
My man is talking about bottom feeders as if we don't have matching records. It's like the Spider-Man meme where you pointing at each other like, bro, you in the basement right with us. In that high I told y'all that y'all had last week, you're coming down. I told you.
Ooh.
I told you the Steelers was coming at that ass.
We're halfway up the basement steps. That's where we're at. We're halfway up the basement steps.
Well, this is beautiful. Y'all just made it life easier for me, because we're going to open up the show having a quick conversation between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Who's going to end up with the worst record? Before I hear from you two, Dion, let me know what you think. Who's going to end up with the worst record between these two teams?
Man, so this is difficult because for me, Justin Fields coming back, it makes me want to believe that would help the Bears. But this is weird because, like, for this weekend, for example, I know we'll get to the picks, so I'll save it. But a big part of me believes that the worst record's probably going to end up being the Chicago Bears. And it's weird to say that because there's a lot of things that I think they're trending in the right direction defensively. I think they're really trending in the right direction. But I think there's just question marks right now on the offensive side of the ball, specifically with the quarterback position. You could say the same thing about the Packers, but they're going through some things over there. And right now, while I don't really think right now Jordan Love has shown he's the future, the baseline that I get with the Green Bay Packers in a way. So I'm going to say the Packers would end up with a better record. But man, hey, you know what I'm saying? That's where I'm going with this one. But it's a time.
All right, then. One bar, talk to us. Who do you think ends up with the better record?
I don't know. I mean, it's between gross and grosser. I do think the Bears will end up with the worst record. I think it's going to be damn close. I think it's going to be like within a game. The Packers got a tough schedule coming up. I don't know exactly whatever. They got a couple of tough ones, and they got the Giants. But the Packers, I mean, I guess they show a little bit more hope. But like Dion said, it all comes down to Justin Fields. Fields is back. Is he going to spark any sort of magic on this team? And yes, the Bears do have some pieces on defense. Dante Foreman, it seems like he gets 80 yards rushing every damn week. So he is going to help. So I think it's going to be close. But if I had to bet the house on it, I would say the Bears end up in the basement.
Wow. What about yourself, Ville? Who do you think is going to end up with the best record?
Go Pack Go. Further into
there we go. Clip it.
Is going down. And what I mean by that is your record, son. It's not happening. It's not happening. Every week there's this ebb and flow where y'all feel like y'all about to spike and take off and catch some fire, and then you get let down. At least we knew the letdown was coming early. So everything is improving for us. We 2-2 over the last 4. The defense is improving. People are getting healthier. So it's going to be a challenge. We both got some tough schedules ahead. But I think the Bears are, as we are getting healthier, we are adding a dynamic talent in Justin Fields, who had his chance to rest and sit back. He was improving, as I said, last week over the last 2 before he was injured with the Vikings. In the Vikings game, previous game, over 600 yards passing, 8 total touchdowns to 1 interception. Let's see. Let's get at it then.
Interesting. Bass, you got the last say. What's going to happen?
Man, you say you were ready for the letdown, but like all off season on social media, Bears fans are, we're going to be this much better. King pulls this, Justin Fields top of the NFC quarterback that. It's every year it's the same thing. And it does hurt to be at this bottom with you because we're not used to it. So, it does hurt, and we got a tough schedule coming up. We do the Chargers, then the Lions, then the Chiefs. So, they very well could lose those next 3 games. But after that, you got the Giants, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. So very well could, round out the season with some wins there. So I still got the Packers finishing 3rd, man. I don't see them finishing last in this division.
Oh, a little turmoil there. Well, I'm not going to make the night easy for any of you all. I got another tough question for you all. Do you see anyone in this division, and primarily speaking about the Lions and the Vikings, actually going to the Super Bowl? We're going to start right back with you, Bass.
Bass, that was rude.
No, it's just realistic. If I'm a betting man, I'm just not going to choose anyone that from the NFC North that is not the Packers going to the Super Bowl. If I'm a betting man, that's what I'm going to do. And I despise the Philadelphia Eagles, but I'd still pick them over both those teams.
Wow. What about you, One Bar?
Baz said it. The Eagles, as much as they're the worst team ever, most hated team ever, they're right up there. It's tough. I mean, as a Vikings fan, we're on a high right now. It's a great story. We shouldn't be winning, all these injuries, but we are winning. So it's beautiful. I think the Lions, they definitely have some players that can do it. But as far as if I'm going with my heart, I'll say yes, the Vikings are going to win the damn Super Bowl every year. If I'm going with my head, I got to say out of the North, I can't see it.
Ooh, Ville, talk to us, man.
I think if they give Sean Clifford a chance, then the Packers might be.
Don't feed that fire. Don't feed that fire.
Nah, let me just stop playing. All right, Packers have no chance. Bears will be lucky to get about 6 or 7 wins. I have faith in my team in improving, but playoffs is no chance. Lions are about the best chance of getting a win in the playoffs. I don't see them in the actual Super Bowl, not this year. They've got a little bit to go. They are a very hard fighting team. They're very talented all around, but they're probably missing a piece or two to that team, and then or just a little bit more experience. Maybe one playoff run and see where it goes next year. Minnesota, it's a nice story. It's probably going to keep going. They have some great coaching, but I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs either, just like last year.
Dion, they count you out, man. Talk to us. Anybody in the North?
Well, we all first off, we all know who we're talking about here. All right, we all know who we're talking about here. It's the Lions, of course. That's the best chance. And even if Bass isn't a betting man, we can take a look at this one. And we could stay. I don't know. I think the other things are also realistic, but let's just go to this realistic side of things. Let's just take a look at the remaining schedule for the Lions. Let's take a look at the remaining schedule for the Philadelphia Eagles, and let's take a look at the possibility of the Lions ending up with the 1 seed in the NFC and how realistic that possibility is. Because I think everybody on here would agree that's a real possibility that the Lions could absolutely end up as the top seed in the NFC. And I was thinking about this last night, so I'm glad you asked this question because I was falling asleep and I was truly thinking this. I'm like, okay, can we really go to the Super Bowl? Really? I was like, can we really do it? And I'm like, who would I want to play if I had to go to this? If we were trying to make that run, who do I not want to see in the playoffs? And I'm like, you know what? I want to see Philly. I'm not worried about Philly. The team that scares me in the NFC more than any other team, and I know I picked against them this week, it's San Francisco. It's San Francisco because there's not many major holes on that team. I can point to a cornerback, but when you got that defensive front, that's a problem. But when I look at teams like Philly, I'm like, look, their secondary is not that great. And I know our offensive line can hang with all these top defensive line teams. The thing is this to me. I think we match up well with all the top teams at the top of the NFC because we can play in the trenches with everybody. We might not be better than San Fran there. You can make that argument, but we can match up and hang in the game with them. And I do think a team like Philly, we've already proven we could score on them last year. We were just getting things started. We proved we could score points, put up 35 in that game to open the season. They go on to play in the Super Bowl. The only team that really worries me is San Fran. So I'm saying if we got a home field, it makes a massive difference for golf in this offense because we can score with anybody at home. And if we get to the Super Bowl, we're playing in Arizona, and there's not going to be bad conditions there either. So all I'm saying is that if we end up first in the NFC, it's a possibility. It's an absolute possibility. And, I do think we will. And hey, look, I'm not even talking crazy, chat. Hang with me. I think we're going to win it this year. Here's why. Our coordinators are still here. They're still here, man. Look, this is always a conversation, though, right? And like, I'll hear this all the time from Lions fans. It's like, man, next year, and you guys probably hear the same thing too. Like, hey, we're building, but wait till next year when everything comes together. And my thing that I don't like about that is we know how many things changed. Yes, of course, injuries, but coordinators. When you're a good team like the Lions, your coordinators aren't going to stick around. I mean, the odds of us keeping Ben Johnson next year are what? The odds of Aaron Glenn staying here next year are what? I mean, there's a very good chance both those guys are out of here and we're searching. Now, you would hope you can put guys in and step in that new role, but things change fast. The fact that they're still here and Ben decided to come back for another season, I think this is why the window's now. It's the window's here now. It's why they went out and got a vet. The chance is now to go do it.
Hey, Dion, you know who
Las
beat
Vegas.
the Niners?
I'm sorry. Hey, still warm. What?
You know who beat the Niners?
This is
These
true.
guys.
This is true.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
On
prime time. On prime time.
Okay, I ain't mad at that. But you still think the Lions, though? If you were like, hey, if I had to pick a team that would represent, you would put that money on the Lions, though? Is that what you're telling me, one bar? That's what you're saying,
sorry,
though, right?
I'm having audio issues. I cannot hear you right now.
Oh man, well,
I let him get that figured out. I'll let him get it figured out. Go ahead, T.
Interesting. Listen, man, let's get into some of these game previews. I just wanted to start it out on a little warm note. We're going to start out with the Packers, ladies and gentlemen, who lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tough loss. I'm going to go across the board and then end off with Bass. We're going to start out with Ville. When you watch that Packers game versus the Steelers losing 23-19, it was a tight game, but what were your thoughts of it overall?
I mean, I pretty much predicted it last week. I felt like they had a chance to win. Pittsburgh isn't a outstanding offense. Their defense can be suspect in the back end with the pass game. Their pass rush can be elite at times, but if that's not clicking, then they can be passed on pretty easily. So I thought it would be a relatively close game, but in the end, it would be a loss, and the loss would be on who it was on, Jordan Love, who threw 2 interceptions and the game-ending interception, which is a thing that they always talk about Justin Fields doing. So it's pretty much the Packers suffering the same things that we've been suffering, and I'm glad it happened. However, the Steelers, they know how to win those weird, quirky games. So I'm not really impressed. I don't think it was anything to cast detriment on the Packers as a team. They also do have injuries to that defense as well, and Aaron Jones is coming back, trying to get back in tune. So I watched the game. It was pretty ugly at times, but it was one of those close battles that could have went either way. But I felt like it was going to be lost on the last turnover.
Nice. Dion, what's your thoughts on it?
Man, I would say at first I took away some real positives from this game. The biggest thing for me first was the ability to kind of get that run game going. And I know we've talked about that, I think, for a few shows here, is like there was time I felt like, man, they're finding some run game. AJ Dillon's doing some things in this one. Now, yes, they had 2 interceptions and they had Jordan Love inconsistent in that game, including basically 50% of his passes, but then I'm also watching. You'll still get the really good throws, like that throw he had in the back of the end zone. I think that one stood. The little pylon pass, that was a beautiful throw by Jordan Love. So you'll still get those things. I think right now, not a ton has changed with me in terms of maybe how I feel about their consistency in their pass game. And then when I go forward and I look at their matchups, there's only going to be certain teams that I feel can match up well with schematically. Maybe that how they play. That I'm like, okay, I could see them matching up in this one. But I think you hit them if you get some matchups that work out right for them. With I think where they're building in terms of their run game, where that's going. The biggest letdown was their run defense in this one. I mean, Pittsburgh kind of found it against them, and Pittsburgh's kind of had hit and miss. I think they've gotten it going a little bit recently, but they found it against Green Bay, and that was concerning because, like I said, there'll be certain teams that I like them against, but that's concerning considering they've already are now losing pieces in the back end. So it's a little bit shaky with me on the defensive side. I don't really know how to feel about that. I don't feel great about it right now. It's not trending up for me, but this was a tough team. I mean, Pittsburgh is tough. It can be as they want it to be at quarterback, and somehow they still win football games. So it's understandable.
Nice. One bar. Talk to me.
If you were to tell me that Pittsburgh was going to get 205 yards on the ground, I would say that you're absolutely insane, but they did it. I mean, they were manhandling the Packers on the ground every run. It seemed like they were just rip. I think they average damn near 6 yards a carry. So when you're doing that, it's going to be tough to win. And when you look at the box score, you look at Deontay Johnson, you look at Pickens, they didn't really do much of anything, but they really didn't have to because they were running the crap out of the ball. And Dion, I mean, to his point, like with Jordan Love, I mean, sometimes he looks good. Sometimes he looks absolutely horrible. That dime he threw, I think it was the Dobbs. I think that's the one Dion was talking about. It was a beautiful throw. And then it's just insane. But I mean, the Packers right now, for me, the Packers are a team that they're obviously not going to go anywhere. They're going to win it. They'll probably win a game or two that they probably shouldn't. But it's probably going to be gross. The main focus for those guys are basically like these young guys. These young guys are stepping up. The veterans, I mean, it just seems like they're not doing much of anything. Christian Watson, I mean, if I'm a Packer fan, I'm so annoyed with that guy right now. It's absolutely insane. But, I mean, I figured the Steelers would win. I figured it'd be close, and that's what it was. I just didn't figure that the Packers were going to give up that much on the ground.
Wow. And, hey, let's hear it, Bass.
Yeah, I mean, they got destroyed on the ground. Like, the Steelers averaged 95 yards a game before this, right? They had 36 for 205 against the Packers defense. So, our 2 previous games, I was sitting there hoping, is our run defense getting better, right? Against the Rams, against the Vikings, you hold them to under 3 yards per carry each game. You're like, maybe, just maybe. But no. Steelers come out here, and Matt Canada, of all people, make our defense look like trash, which is absolutely absurd, right? But, Vale said it's Jordan Love's fault, which I can't agree with that, man. Like, Jordan Love didn't have a perfect game per se. The first interception, fade route to Watson, which they keep trying to do, and it just keeps not working. Like, this guy isn't making a play for his quarterback. Ball tipped up, and they intercepted. The second one, I mean, they're on the last play of the game, and they have 7-8 defenders on the goal line. Like, what else are you going to do there? Like, you're just going to try to, sure, he could have gave his guys a little bit better of a chance. It went right into, I forget the defender, Keanu Neal, I believe it was, right in his hands. But I don't put that all on Jordan Love. I actually saw the most improvement in this game by Jordan Love in terms of him being able to fire on his first read. His accuracy looked a lot better. You guys both mentioned it. The corner route to Dobbs was a perfectly placed ball. The deep post to Jaden Reed, who's been balling out, was a perfectly placed ball. Late in that game, he hit Jaden Reed again on their 1-minute drive to try to get down the field. And then he hits Aaron Jones on the right side. And this dude cuts back to the inside when they have no timeouts and wastes probably 20, 30 seconds. So you can only blame Jordan Love so much. And Aaron Jones had a horrible game, dropped like 3 passes. Of course, he catches that one, which drains the clock 30 seconds. So, yeah, sure, you can blame Jordan Love for the last interception or whatever you want to do, but it's not all on him. I've seen some improvement. And then also, One Bar said it well as well. These young players are stepping up and the veterans aren't. And it's weird to call Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs a veteran considering they're second-year players, but they're the oldest active wide receivers on the team, and they have not really been stepping up. Romeo Doubs has been, kind of consistent here and there, but Christian Watson, I agree. You said if you're a Packers fan, you're probably annoyed at that guy, and you're 100% correct. But, it's just a tough game.
Wow. Well, interesting. I wanted to ask you, Bass, has the fan base given up on the playoff hopes, like just 100% completely?
I think if you're being realistic, yes. I'm sure there's always some people that are going to say, they can win the next so-and-so games or they're going to win out. But, I've been through that before where we're in the dumps and Aaron Rodgers is, we're going to run the table or, we're going to win out. And you got kind of have some hope in your mind there. You're kind of like, okay, maybe we could do that. But a first year with a new quarterback with Jordan Love, you're just kind of building. And it's going into the season, you always hope like, okay, they can do the best and they can make the playoffs. But if you kind of looked at it in retrospect, it was always a building block year. They get more draft capital for 2024. They have more money for 2024. Aaron Rodgers' contract will be completely off the books. David Bakhtiari will likely be moved on from, and they'll save $20 million there. So 2023 was kind of always a building year with how young they are. And just a whole new system and whatnot. Hopefully the year that they can finally move on from Joe Barry at the end of, and then build off of that as well into 2024. But me personally, I don't see it happening. I don't see them making the playoffs. And I think I would say the majority agree.
All right. Well, let's move forward to the Chicago Bears. Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to all the Bears fans. The victory that you just had over the Carolina Panthers, it wasn't just another game. It was one that could potentially secure the #1 overall pick, and the Bears came out victorious. I want to start with One Bar on this one. What were your thoughts on that game with the Bears? It was actually a good game, in my opinion.
Boy, TD, I could not disagree anymore on the fact that was a good game. I for the Bears, this was kind of their Super Bowl. They had to win this game as far as as getting that draft pick, getting the Panthers to absolutely blow, which they did. So hats off to them. But as I'm watching this, at one point, I actually just went in one of my closets and turned all the lights off and just sat there for a while because it was more entertaining than that. It was brutal. It was boring. It was everything you expect. A bunch of field goals, just gross play. And you know what? What I was hoping. I was hoping for Bryce Young actually to show something. He let me down. It was bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Foreman, like I said, what do you get? If I had to guess, he probably got his 80 yards. And Bajent, it sounds like that was his last hurrah. Did some good throws, did some gross throws. It is what it is, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, big win for the Bears. They needed to win this game, and they did.
Interesting. He said I couldn't disagree more. And what about you, Dion? What were your thoughts on it?
Yo, that's so funny because we were sitting there watching it, and I was watching it with my dad on this one, and it was the funniest thing because the whole time he's complaining about how terrible the game is. And I'm just cracking jokes like, another field goal. It's like, yo, this is some good football right here, man. This thing's about to go down to the wire. But at the same time, it's like as competitive as it was like One Bar said, it was ugly competitive. It was just like, okay, this is a disaster. But at the same time, it's a good football game because of that. Look, I really think there's positives coming with Chicago's side. And I didn't even realize, like, you look at them statistically, there's some really good numbers there. Specifically, what's come together as a run defense. We talked about the run game a lot last week, but run defensively, I think that defense is starting to kind of come together a little bit. And I'm happy for what's working there because when you take a look at their secondary, while, there's still questions like, okay, Tyreek Stevenson, right? What is that going to look like long-term? But guys like Kyler Gordon, going into, I think, his second season now, like guys like that are stepping up for this defense. They got playmakers there. Montez Sweat has helped them as well. I don't know if I see like a ton of elite defensively, but there's good players and they look strong at all three. And offensively, it wasn't a super impressive win, kind of because like One Bar said, like I kind of anticipated they'd win because they'd be able to run the football, and that Panthers O-line is a disaster. So I think it's good, but it's hard because they played the Panthers. So there's a lot of things that's like, okay, it looked good, but it's like, yeah, who is that against those? So it's a good win for them. There's a good win for them. I think the best thing is it wasn't a letdown, right? They played, they were better than that team and they handled business.
Baz, talk to us.
Man, I didn't want to watch this game and I didn't. I was actually out. I think I was at a bar and there's 2 TVs up in front of me, and one had the game and the other one was like some commercials. And I kid you not, I was watching the commercials. Like I did not want to watch that game. I wanted a tie personally. I think that would have been like the best option there. I think that would have just like encapsulated Thursday Night Football with that matchup. Like I don't know in the offseason how these schedule makers circle that game and go, yeah, let's put that prime time. Let's go Thursday night with that one. Like that's crazy to me. But again, the Bears handled their business and got a better draft pick because of it. So I got to give them credit. But they finally got a win with their Bajent guy, and now they're going to switch off of him. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But not much to say on this game, honestly, because I didn't watch it.
Bill, you watched it, please. Someone had to watch it.
I hope Bill watched it. Bill, talk to us, man. Tell us why it was a great game.
If y'all don't recall last week, I don't sit up here and sugarcoat shit about my team. Excuse my language. That was a boring game. I have to watch it because I know y'all was going to ask me about it. So that's really the only reason why I watched it, and to make sure that we won so that we can solidify that number 1 pick. That's the best thing that came out of it. I actually on Twitter made a graphic that calls it the Tank Mo Bowl. Super Tank Mo Bowl is what I called it. Whoever loses is pretty much likely going to be that number 1 pick. So I wanted to make sure that I watched them cross that goal line and actually get a win. I didn't care if it was a 1-point win. You better beat that team or Bears Twitter was going to go crazy. And we needed that. Now we're on at the 5th pick ourselves. They have the number 1 pick. Big ups to the Cardinals as well for solidifying their win and moving up so that can secure the Carolina Panthers down there. Next up, the New York Giants need to do something so that they can win, so we can stick to that number 1 pick. But the game itself, the run game did well. Obviously, you had Brian Burns out. CJ Henderson was out for the back end for the cornerbacks. We couldn't get the pass game going. So Dante Foreman and Roshan Johnson had to carry the team as usual, pretty much over the last 4 games. It's been them. And then occasionally Tyson Bagent in some games has made some decent plays, some nice throws deep and some intermediate, but very inconsistent. It's a game. It's a game that was on the schedule. We had to play. We got the win. I'm just happy for the pick being secured, at least for another couple of weeks, because I don't see anybody really supplanting them, I guess, if you're going in reverse, in that number 1 pick. So I'm not hugely excited about it. I am excited about guys like Kyler Gordon, who had 7 tackles, 6 solo, 2 tackles for a loss. Montez Sweat with the 8 pressures and 3 quarterback hits. He knocked the hell out of Bryce Young. And kind of like a, hey, welcome to the NFL moment. But that's pretty much the gist of what I got from it. And obviously, TJ Edwards is a dog. He's at 110 tackles already for the season. So we got some good pieces, like some of the guys said. But I'm just looking forward to the end of the season, and also looking forward to Fields coming back and trying to solidify if he is him, which I believe he is him. So
well, with that being said, I want to stick with you and talk about that real quick. Fields is coming back. What are your thoughts on his return, and how can he impact his team for the rest of the season?
With the dynamics of his legs and what he's able to do to suck up the defense, he is coming back to a much better situation than he left. They was giving up. My bad, gentlemen. Almost had me a Stephen A moment there. He's coming back to a team that's actually playing solid defense, albeit we've had some up and down teams that weren't great offensively, but they look better collectively. They're healthier. Kyler Gordon is back. Eddie Jackson, several other guys that were not healthy in the beginning of the year, and also Montez Sweat getting his 2nd game in. I believe as long as he can do what he does normally, like he's able to move the offense. Like there were several games last year where 4 to 5 games in a row, he was running that offense to 29 to 30 points a game, and the defense was giving up damn near 35. So as long as the defense stays improving, they don't have to be top notch. Just stop some people and let him come in and let him not have to make the hero ball decisions that he does sometimes towards the ends of the game, which kind of like I was making fun of Jordan Love with that. And yeah, he's got less experience than Justin Fields, but I have to make that comparison. Like, they expect Justin Fields now to make those kind of boneheaded plays where everybody gets mad at the end, but they don't remember the 2 to 3 touchdowns that he did to bring us back or bring us a lead or whatnot, and then the defense just collapses. So as long as he can come back and he's learned something about getting the ball out quicker, I seen a video with his drop back being a lot faster, but that's obviously in practice. So we want to see that improve this Sunday. Detroit Lions is definitely a tough team to come back from, but this is your I am him moment. You have to come out. You had them last year. They're much improved this year based off of that team as well with additions that they have, but this is the announce yourself moment for him, I believe.
All right. Well, it sounds like the Bears might be getting a victory. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, I got to move forward to another game this week. We got to get into the Dobbs Mania. Man, first of all, I'm going to start with Dion because I'm going to say one bar for last. Dion, give me your thoughts on the Vikings beating the Saints. And also, I want you to end off letting me know, are there any concerns with the Vikings from the Lions? But give me your game recap and then let us know if there's any concerns.
Well, I'll start with this, man, because I didn't take them, and it was impressive to see that they won. It was impressive when you saw the scoreboard at one point. It was 24-3, I think, going in a half, 27-3 in the third quarter. To see that, I was like, well, what the heck's going on? Every time I kept seeing, they started to score at the end with Jameis Winston. It made it like look better, but dang, I was not expecting to see that. And I'll say, first off, got to give a shout out to one bar because I think he brought up DJ. Am I saying Wanham right? And he had a sack in there. He made some plays. So that some of those, I mean, Danielle Hunter had a game. Some of those dudes were showing up against that offensive line. I'll say this: what really stood out to me is, man, the Vikings were on one in the first half offensively. Like, you couldn't rattle them, it felt like, in the first half of that game. They were consistent on early downs. They were efficient. Then in the second half, I thought like some of like the bootlegs they were trying to set up would like get them behind the chains, or like you'd force an incomplete pass on second down, and maybe they couldn't just lean on the run game to ice the game away, it felt like. So it kind of let New Orleans a little bit back into the game. But Josh Dobbs was making plays. I mean, that first half drive that he had to get them down and score a touchdown to TJ Hockenson, where he had 10 receptions in the first half. That dude was he was taking what was there. That was the big thing. It's like Dobbs was not forcing anything. He was taking what was there. They're like backed up in quarters. All right, check it down. Then he comes back and hits Hawk like right over the middle of the field when they split their safeties. And it was like, dude, he's taking everything that's there. So I thought it was an impressive win because I thought with this defense, it would be a little more suffocating than they were. And Dobbs took everything that was there, utilized his legs. Now, I think New Orleans left some things out there. Like New Orleans could have, I think the amount of times like flags where they would be like 4th and 1, it was like, man, they are just like missing just by a little bit here. But overall, I was impressed by their offense in this one. However, I'm not concerned. I mean, we about to get to our prediction, TD. I'm not concerned, though. There is not a part of me that is concerned, but it was a good win for them, and I was actually impressed because I didn't take them in this one. TD, are you silent or am I? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry, y'all. No concern from Dion. So why don't we go to Baz? Why don't you tell us what were your thoughts on that game?
Look, man, I picked the Saints too, and I got to give credit to the Vikings. Like, I hate to do it, but I have to. You know, this is impressive. Like, it actually is. And I loved the Dobbs trade when they made it. So, you know, I thought he'd come in here and give them more than Jaron Hall. That's why, you know, last week when Hall started, I was like, all right, they're probably going to lose that game even against the Falcons. But then Dobbs came in, you know, did the magic. They won that game. Came back this week. I was like, oh, you know, Saints have a good defense. I think they're going to come back down to earth. And they didn't. Like Dion said, 24-3 at half. And I looked at that score too. And I was like, damn, I was way off, right? But, you know, by the end of the game, little famous Jameis, you know, tried to eat a W and almost got one at the end there, but didn't. But you can't dislike Dobbs, man. Like, this guy's posting hilarious TikToks. You can't dislike the guy. Like, I hate to say it, but, you know, I'm kind of rooting for him, which is, it sounds horrible, but I kind of am. Hawkinson had a great game as well. He's really stepped up. I know the Lions have Laporta, but I still don't know why they traded him to an interdivisional team here. But, he had a great game, for 134 and a touchdown. Josh Dobbs, man, I think they could continue this run, getting back Justin Jefferson. I've kind of flipped the switch. A little bit. I think I'm impressed.
Impressing people. All right. Minnesota, talk to us, Ville. What were your thoughts on that game?
Man, I am completely impressed by this inexplicable hot win streak by Minnesota. Like, I don't even understand the win streak and how they're winning these games with the injuries that they have, the players that they have replacing. They even picked up Cam Akers, which was supposed to be the guy that eventually takes over the backfield from Madison, and then he gets hurt. And they continuously have kind of a poor backfield, especially when Madison is at the forefront of it, and they still find a way to win on both sides of the ball. Dobbs has been extremely impressive. I figured the streak would keep going. Like, Saints haven't showed me anything offensively that makes me feel like they can beat average teams at times. Sometimes they're hot. Sometimes Olav gets a nice couple of passes and get some run after the catch, but nothing has been explosive. Even with Kamara back, they haven't looked like the Saints of old. So I figured with the way Minnesota has been going, this would have been another notch on their hat, and they're going to continue to do this because they are so well coached. I got a note here. Like, I'm just extremely jealous of the coaching that's going on up there. Like, they continuously there's no excuses. Like, they do not give excuses, and they continuously win, continuously go out there to ball out. And as a Bears fan, it's extremely frustrating watching them do their thing, and then me watch hard cap Matt Eberflus after a game try to explain some bullshit over and over and over and over again. And like, bro, there's no fire. You're not doing your job. Some things are improving, but is it you or is it the players that are talented enough to do the things that they're supposed to do versus teams that they're supposed to beat? It's frustrating. I got to give kudos to Dobbs and the Vikings.
Man, I'll say this one bar. You're getting a lot of love up here, except from Dion, and maybe there's a reason for that. So one bar, why don't you tell us what were your thoughts of that game? Beating the Saints, which a lot of these guys picked you to lose last week. You remember that?
Everybody picks us to lose every damn week. Dion, I hope you're wearing a diaper, man, because shit's coming. It's happening. We'll see what's going to happen. So strap up that diaper. You might want to double dip on that thing. Here's the thing. Dobbs, yes, it's a great story. He's playing his ass off. But Ville, you said it, man. It comes back to the coaching. Look at Kevin O'Connell. There's no reason the Vikings should be winning this game. I know every team has their injuries, so I'm not going to throw that out there, but we've had some big time. I mean, Kirk Cousins out. Justin Jefferson has been out for the last 5 games, and we continue to win. And at some point, you got to look at Kevin O'Connell. You got to look at Brian Flores. You got to look at these guys and say, you know what, they're building something that is working. I mean, when we traded for Josh Dobbs, I was just kind of like, what the hell? We trade for Josh Dobbs? That's weird. And guess what? He's playing his balls off. It's fantastic. And it's something special going on with the Vikings. Will it last? I hope so. I mean, it's a great story, like everybody's saying. I mean, if I wasn't a Vikings fan, I'm watching this, I'm like, damn, they got something pretty cool going on there. But it does start out top with Kevin O'Connell. As far as the game is concerned, I mean, TJ Hawkinson, the dude comes out, his ribs were like mashed potatoes. There's nothing left of his ribs. And he's out there and he gets 11 catches, 134 yards to score. It's beautiful. We didn't have KJ Osborne. We played fantastic. And it was 24-3 at halftime. And at no point, even though the Saints started to come back, mostly because Winston came out there, and we know Winston, he doesn't give a hell. He's throwing that thing off his back foot, and they were catching it. They were doing their thing. But at no point was it overly worrisome. I would say the only negatives out of this were the fact that we did let them come back. We played a little pretty vanilla. We played it pretty safe in the second half, so they did put up some points. And then Jordan Hicks, our linebacker, who's had a hell of a year, is actually on injured reserve now for the next 4 games. So that sucks ass. But it was a great win. We needed it. It had to happen, and they did it.
Well, I want to stay with you one bar. I want to ask you, how confident are you that Josh Dobbs can continue this type of play?
I mean, if I had a bigger sample, it would be one thing. For now, I'm just going to ride the high and like it. The best thing about Dobbs is and I said this last week, it's night and day. We're used to Kirk Cousins, who's a hell of a quarterback, but he's a statue in the pocket. He doesn't move. So we're seeing Dobbs move around. He can feel the presence. He's making things happen. He had a touchdown score. He ran it in this week, and it's just something we're not used to. We haven't seen that in a very, very long time. And we do got a pretty damn good offensive line. So as far as buying into Dobbs, it's week by week for me. I'd love to say that he is going to lead us to 17 Super Bowls, but let's just see what happens with Dobbs. I got realistic expectations for him, but if he continues to ball out, hell yes. And just remember, we haven't even seen him out there with Jefferson yet.
That Justin Jefferson, he'll be back soon. Well, let's switch gears to the last game from last week. The Detroit Lions went up against the LA Chargers, and they beat them 41-38 in what I like to call a legitimate shootout. We're going to start with Veal. What was your thoughts on that game?
I told y'all last week it was going to be a shootout. This was a game for fantasy managers worldwide. And I had plenty of people in the game, so I am very happy that it turned out to be the way it was. Detroit never really seemed like they were going to lose that game. It seemed like one of those back and forth efforts where the Chargers just seem to always lose games like that, where they're performing well offensively, things look good, and they just can't seem to get over that, like, and solidify that tough win where someone's actually active with them offensively. Detroit's run game was top notch, especially the first half. It just seemed like it was constantly going, and Jared could just kind of coast. Goff could just coast. He hit a pass here, hit a pass there, then you would see 2 or 3 runs for 5 to 6 yards or chunk yards, or David Montgomery running for 75 yards, former Bear, which he knew what he was doing with that game. He knew what he was doing afterwards. He was smiling in that camera, looking at us, and I get it. I love Demo too. And we know what that offensive line is like up there. That's a dope offensive line, obviously the best in the division. The game was good, very entertaining, as expected. It's just another well-coached team that goes out there and they ball hard and they play pause. They continuously play so well for their coaches. Like I gotta say it, like our players, you don't see that. You don't see them connected to the coach, even though they talk hits principle. Like I see so many missed tackles for a hits principle team. It doesn't make sense. But Detroit, they go out there, they play hard, they get down, a touchdown happens, they come back like it never happened, and they go down and march down the field again. It was a very impressive game, very impressive win. It lets you know that even in the shootout, they can pull it out. So that's a tough team right there.
Bass, what you got on it?
Man, I think this was the game of the year so far this year. I mean, I really enjoyed watching it, honestly. I mean, it made me a little envious, if I'm not going to lie, because, you know, the Lions do exactly what I kind of want the Packers to do. Dan Campbell, you know, an excellent coach, power running of the football. I mean, I saw a couple plays where right off the break of the line of scrimmage, the entirety of the Chargers defensive line was walked back like 3 yards. And it's like, you know, David Montgomery's like, okay, well, I got a first down. This is easy, right? You know, David Montgomery ran hard and upset me when they got rid of Jamal Williams because I loved him there. But Dave Montgomery's kind of doing the same thing, if not more than Jamal did. And you know, in terms of, you know, what that offense did when, you know, we watched the Packers Steelers, it was kind of like, oh, the Packers gave up so much running yards. The Chargers actually gave up more average, you know, 6.5 yards per carry the Lions had. And they're running like power sweeps to the Monter St. Brown. I mean, I was loving it. It was a lot of great from that game, especially, you know, also the passing offense on the Chargers. Keenan Allen went off a Monter St. Brown. Also envious of that. You guys drafted the right St. Brown brother, and we got the other one that's, I think, on the Bears still. So, you know, there's a lot to be envious about, honestly, because, you know, I like the way the Lions are ran. I like the way they're coached, and this game was awesome. And it makes me a little bit concerned about the upcoming week against the Chargers because, you know, they dropped 38 on Detroit. So it's like, you know, how's our defense going to look considering we just made a Matt Canada offense look like that? So a little bit concerned, but I was very hype watching that game actually.
Wow, one bar. What'd you take out of it?
Nah, that was a sweet ass game. You can't sugarcoat it. 533 total yards for the Lions. That's absolutely insane. When I give Dion some shit saying he's got to wear a diaper, I already got my diaper on for when we play the Lions because it's gonna be interesting. As much smack as I'm talking, I mean, it's gonna be very tough 2 games of the last when we get to the end of the season for the Vikings. But Lions, I mean, Ben Johnson. I mean, this dude is gonna have he's gonna be the number one guy. He's going to have his pick of the coaching. Any coaching availability is out there. Everybody's going to want this guy. And their offensive line. Everybody's talking about their offensive line. Just fantastic. They're doing it right. Their running game, the combo of Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, that is scarier than hell. And seeing these guys just continue to get offense. And Jared Goff, could there be a more perfect team than the Lions for Jared Goff? So as a Vikings fan, I hate to see it. But you got to give him credit. And Dan Campbell, I mean, his balls must weigh about 150 pounds.
Yes. Man, well,
the dude goes for 4th down every damn time.
Every time. It's like playing someone in Madden.
Real quick, one bar. Before I go to Dion, can you all beat the Lions, though?
Hey, look, the way I look at it, the Vikings, as of now, control their destiny. We could win out. We could win out and get the North because that means we beat the Lions twice. So until Dobbs Mania, until we come back to earth, hopefully that does not happen. You're damn right we can, but it is not going to be easy.
Not going to be easy, but okay. It's good to hear that you feel like you can. Dion, talk to us about this Chargers game and any pushback you got for one bar.
Well, I'll say this, man. One bar was not very confident saying that. Let's be real. Okay, one bar. Look, you got to answer the question. He was trying to avoid it there for a second. I get it, one bar. Hey, I'll say this, though. No, look, man, here was the biggest thing for me, and everybody really touched on it, so I won't just keep saying – actually, I will keep saying it. The offensive line, it was crazy good. Okay, this thing was unreal, and it was coming back healthy. Now, I know we're going to talk a little bit about Jonah, I think, in a second, but really the thing is with this offensive line, man, it just put out there like, okay, we're just better than you are, and you could see that coming in statistically, they were a good run defense. But you could see that in the interior, it's like, I don't really know if those dudes can hold up there. And this offensive line, just with Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, and Jonah Jackson, they were just getting crazy movement. Ben Johnson put on a clinic in this one. I mean, this was incredible. Ben Johnson's been incredible, but I think when you get on this kind of stage, the 4 o'clock start, you score 41 points. It's a shootout like this, so all eyes are on it. Like this, just everybody gets to see like how good Ben Johnson really is, man. And it was just like that. It was like he could just kind of do whatever he wanted. And the biggest thing to me was the adjustments, because you come out in the second half, Chargers like, man, we got to start slowing down the run. Let's get a little more aggressive. And you do that. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's just like, okay, try to cover me then one-on-one. It's like, okay, we can't. So to me, it was just the answers that they had offensively to win that way. And it was good as a Lions fan because we've played in shootouts now the last 2 seasons, but we really haven't won those. Like not really that have gone back and forth like this. So to win it, but also not be at home was really the key thing that I took away from that, because it just shows the variety of ways that you need to be able to win. And again, we go back to the Super Bowl talk. Most of these teams that you're going to be playing, if you're talking like at the very end of the season, they're going to be able to score points. So that's why it's going to be important for us to be home, because we score a ton at home. But at the same time, it's like you have to be able to score like this. You have to be able to go back and forth with the team. And the Lions showed that they were able to do that really in 2 different ways in each half. And that was the key for me in this one.
Interesting. Well, let me ask you this real quick, Dion, because I want to stay on this one for a second. Bruce Irvin signed. How can he help you all?
Man, I mean, he gives us a lot of help because we don't have James Houston seemingly coming back until maybe the end of December. So it's really just that. And if you don't know who James Houston is, he was like the guy that came onto the scene last year. Nearly caught Hutch in sacks, played half the season. He was a undrafted free agent. And he was a completely different piece than you usually see. He was a freakish athlete that was completely undersized, that we didn't know what the heck to do with him in the run game, but he just brought you a different element. We got a lot of power pass rushers, right? Hutchinson brings a lot. He can win a lot of different ways. But outside of that, we got a lot of guys that are going to win through tackles, win through offensive linemen. Bruce Irvin now gives us more of the athleticism element, and he gives us a vet, which if you look at our defensive front, like against Baltimore, for example, when we have to put Jack Campbell on the line of scrimmage, there were some breakdowns there. So he gives us that, and he also just gives us a change of pace, I think. Just a freaky athletic pass rusher that can hopefully, depending on who you're playing, force the quarterback to step up in the pocket instead of consistently trying to collapse upon him.
All right, well, Baz, let's switch gears real quick, and I'd like to hear this right now because it sounds like the playoff hopes look very dim. What are the top 3 issues with the team right now?
Just the top 3?
Oh,
Yeah, so I would say defense is definitely one of them. This was kind of like one of the first games where I fully pinned it on the defense. A lot of the times I did pin losses on the offense, but it's still a problem. Like, I don't think there's any Packers fan that is sitting here going, yeah, let's keep Joe Barry around for 2024. Like, there probably might be a couple. I don't know why, but there's majority are going to say, get rid of Joe Barry. Let's change something here. There's too much talent on this defense to consistently getting beat the same way. Like, a Joe Barry defense is built to not allow big plays, but yet they allow big plays on the ground. So they're actually top 10 allowed in big plays. So, you got to change something. They're too soft. There's not aggressive enough. I just don't see enough difference from this Packers defense, and they can't obviously stop the run. Like I said, those Rams-Vikings games, 2 flukes there stopping the run. The rest of the year has been pretty abysmal, like 4.5 to 5 yards per carry by the other team. Second problem, man, I would say the wide receivers in terms of the quote unquote veterans. You have Jaden Reed, the leading receiver of the Packers in terms of yards. And shout out Jaden Reed, because I was high on this guy when they drafted him, watching his tape out of Michigan State. I'm like, this guy's going to be, future great slot wide receiver in the NFL. And he's already looking like that. And he's already looking like a veteran on his own. He's looking really good. So shout out Jaden Reed. But then you also have Tay Wicks, who's stepping onto the scene, our 5th round from Virginia. And you have guys like Wicks, Reed, Musgrave, our 2nd round rookie tight end, that are stepping up. And last week were the top 3 yardage receivers for the Packers. Reed, Wicks, and Musgrave are the top 3. So you have to have guys like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. They have to step up as well. And that's been a big problem for them. And Romeo Doubs has been pretty consistent, so I do want to give him his credit. But the main concern there is definitely Christian Watson, who was supposed to be this touted number 1, game breaker type of wide receiver, where he's beating guys deep for 80-yard touchdowns and whatnot, kind of like we saw a little bit last year, but it simply hasn't happened. He has the lowest catch rating in the NFL, I think, at 30%. I mean, the guy has like maybe 1 or 2 contested catches he's caught. And Jordan Love, when you look at his stats targeting Dobbs and Watson, it's terrible. Like, all of his interceptions come from targeting those 2. Like, when he targets Reed, Musgrave, and Wicks, he's actually really, really nice rating there. Number 1 would be run blocking. That offensive line, man, it's terrible. Like, many people will sit and look at the box score and go, well, Aaron Jones didn't have a good game, or AJ Dillon didn't have a good game. But, when you watch the tape, man, the interior of the offensive line, and last week was a little bit better because Josh Myers decided to show up, but John Runyon's been abysmal. Josh Myers, for the most of the year in the run game, has been pretty bad. Elton Jenkins kind of started pretty bad, then had his MCL sprain. Now he's finally getting back to his former self. You got Rasheed Walker at left tackle. Zach Tom's been the only consistent piece at right tackle, so he's having a good season. But the interior of that line, man, is just getting beaten up, and they're losing the point of attack every single game, it seems like. So when you can't establish the run with such a young offense, young wide receivers, you're going to be forced to pass in certain situations, 3rd and long, and you're going to get beaten. It's going to make Jordan Love look a lot worse than he actually is. So those are my 3 problems.
Awesome. Hey, One Bar, I'm going to switch up to you for a second here. Impact of losing Jordan Hicks, and how will Anthony Barr impact the defense?
No, Hicks is big time. It's you can think about Jordan Hicks and be like, he's just okay, but he's had a fantastic season. The dude is in on every single play. He's a big part of this Brian Flores defense. Flores even said it best right after this came out, and he just basically said, this is not good. This is going to hurt, and it is going to hurt. We got Ivan Pace, undrafted free agent, who's been playing in the middle with Hicks. We got Troy Dye, who when he suited up at times looks like a kicker. Hasn't really done much of anything out there. As far as when it comes to Anthony Barr, hey, it's a great story, man. Anthony Barr coming back. We drafted this dude in like 2014. It's fantastic. Love to see him back, but he's on the practice squad. I mean, he hasn't been signed for a reason. I love me some Barr. I would love to see him out there, but I think when it comes down to it, it's going to have to be these other guys stepping up. I think it would be more so on the Ivan Pace, more so on the Troy Dye, but this is a big blow. This is another big blow to this defense, so it's going to hurt.
Tough. So can Barr fill those shoes?
I don't know. I mean, Davenport's out. I mean, Barr can play inside. He can play outside. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. I said this on an episode on our show, is basically like Brian Flores has given me hope that he can put guys in positions to succeed, even if that's Anthony Barr. I think he's 30, 31. I mean, he's got injury issues, but I put this up to Brian Flores. He's going to put the right guys out there. If Barr's not out there, then he shouldn't be out there. If he's out there, he's going to make him make some plays. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I don't want to run out of time. So real quick, Vil, what are your thoughts of the O-line shaking up? You know, Tevin Jenkins going to left guard, Nate Davis coming back, which is going to bench Cody Whitehair. What are they trying to do here?
I love it. I feel like they're finally healthy. Everybody is finally healthy, and they have the right configuration together, right? You went out and you got Nate Davis in the off season. You're moving over Tevin Jenkins. I did like the combo of the rookie Wright and Jenkins, because they were mauling people on that side with the run game. But Davis can also provide that when healthy. Hopefully, he can stay healthy the remainder of the season. When you move Cody Whitehair out, there was tons of bad snaps. I know you guys haven't been watching the game. I don't blame you, but there were tons of bad snaps from last year to this year. He just can't seem to consistently get that together, and that kind of kills a lot of plays, especially plays where the ball has to get out quickly for our young quarterbacks. I like it. I've always said this should be the top 4. Lucas Patrick was a nice patch for a second. I was hoping that this offseason we would have drafted a center. So hopefully this is the offseason we do that, and now we have a full locked in offensive line. So I love it first and foremost because it's right on time for Justin Fields to get back, and for his protection and the things that he'll be able to do to be able to prove himself as him, as I was speaking before. But the O-line, this is definitely the time, especially over the last few games with them enhancing, even in the passing game. Like, we haven't been Tyson Badgett, he's been getting the ball out. He's done his part, and he's ran when he needed to. But he hasn't been hit. He hasn't been torn apart like Fields was last year. So this is the time, and we got 7 games to get that chemistry together. Then we can decide to extend Tevin Jenkins and then draft that center, and boom, we should have a offensive line that can compete with the rest of the guys in the division.
Nice. Dion, coming back your way, Donovan Peoples-Jones nearing a debut, full participant in practice. What is he going to mean for this team?
He means mainly a different body type, just something that we don't have. I won't spend too much time here because this is something we've talked about, I think, already on this show, but specifically it's a different body type. We don't have that body type on this offense right now, so he gives us something a little bit different. We're not a team that lives outside of numbers, but that's actually where he can help us because he brings that, but at the same time, he's also over his career brought flexibility inside, outside. He's the height, weight, speed guy that the Lions were trying to kind of find, but they didn't want to go like huge investment on outside of Jamison Williams. And right now it's kind of like, okay, we're figuring out what works with Jamison Williams. So it was that. We tried to find it with Denzel Mims, didn't hit. We come back, we get Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think he may end up being a long-term part of this team as long as he gives us some good production in terms of when we need him. 2-3 receptions in certain games. Other games probably doesn't get touches, but just coming through for big first downs. We need someone that can win on the outside.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And quickly, your left guard, Jonah Jackson, wrist injury, and 2 linemen. Do you have any concern about what's going on in that area?
I do, but it's not a huge concern because we've already kind of been dealing with this for most of the season with the interior offensive line. But I'll have this concern because of how good they played against the Chargers. You want to see that continue, and I don't know with Jonah Jackson. There's questions if it's kind of like, okay, is it still the ankle thing that he's dealing with, or is it the wrist injury? It's only Wednesday, so I'm optimistic there. But I'm concerned because what the Lions had with Jonah back was, as Dan Campbell put it, a lot of athleticism. And I think that's where they made the Chargers uncomfortable. They made them work laterally, while at the same time, they have a lot of power, and they were able to drive them off their spot, kind of like Bass said. I mean, they were just walking literally backwards, and that's something that they will lose with Jonah, but they have some backups that have stepped in and played well, specifically KO'd so far this season, much improved from last year.
All right. One more for the Bears. What do you think that the team will do with the first overall pick if they do get it? Because there was some rumbling about Fields today still being in evaluation mode for the last 8 games of the season.
Yeah, I definitely seen the quote from Matt Eberflus where he was saying, he's got 7 games to execute as, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's kind of close, execute as they expect him to. So that could mean both two things. That can mean do what we are telling you to do. Play the game that we need you to do, and be the quarterback that we expect you to do when we go through these practices and we run through these weeks, and put our game plan out there as it should be. Or he could be saying, we expect this guy to be successful. We know what he is. We know what we've seen over the last 2 off seasons. And these next 7 games, we're going to try to put him in position to be successful. It's a coin flip to me right now, because Matt Eberflus, like I said before, he's very confusing, very kind of veiled comments, and nothing really seems of substance. Like, you can't really, he's never really given you a straight answer. So I just hope that it means that, like you said, evaluation, go out there and ball out, continue the success that you were on, or the trajectory that you were on. Obviously, it's not going to be 8 TDs over 2 games every time, but at least go out there and show that you can be a franchise quarterback. Don't be the problem, be the solution. So 7 games, they're going to give him the evaluation, and hopefully they make the smart decision, because that's a lot of cap space that we have next year, and that's a lot of draft capital that we can use. We can get a top-notch premium guy, whether it's quarterback or not. You know, I know there's going to be people in the chat like draft the quarterback, and then there's going to be people that say draft positions. Either way, you got 2 top-notch picks. You can use one on a premium player, whether it's a quarterback, a defensive end, an offensive lineman, Marvin Harrison Jr., or you can just draft a quarterback and then do whatever, move back with the other pick. So I just hope that we use the resources smart, and I hope that Fields can show that he can be the franchise quarterback, so that we can continuously build with that cap space as well as those picks, because that's a treasure trove. If he hits big in these next 7 games, you can maybe even move back a couple times with both of those picks and still get a Marvin Harrison Jr. with that first earlier pick, and then some other great offensive linemen. Get these trenches together, basically, is what needs to happen, especially if you keep Fields.
All right. Well, one more question before we get into the game previews, and I want to go to Bass for this one. Give us your updated evaluation of Jordan Love. Probably going to ask you that every week.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, everyone wants to, know about him, and a lot of people hate him. A lot of people see the good in him. And I'll say this, every single content creator that played quarterback at some point in the NFL, you had JT O'Sullivan, Kurt Warner, Kurt Benkert, all these guys are praising what Jordan Love is doing. And these are guys that have done it. So I kind of watch their film videos and kind of see their breakdowns and kind of take their perspective of it. And I also have my own opinions on it. Like, he's not perfect by any means, but anyone saying they should bench him or move on from him right now, I think is just way too early to do that. Like I said in my game recap from last week, I thought he showed a lot of improvement in this Steelers game. It didn't seem like he was kind of off balance with a lot of the wide receivers. It seemed like he was more on timing with them, where Dion said multiple times in the past couple of weeks, it just seems like something's off. I didn't feel that as much in this game. Like I said, hitting Jaden Reed multiple times, Romeo Doubs in the back of the end zone, Luke Musgrave using him the right way up the middle of the seam or a corner route against a linebacker. So, he was firing the ball. He seemed like he was letting it loose. He wasn't lofting it as much. So I was actually impressed. Like, you can look at the stat line, you could look at the 2 interceptions and go, oh, he played bad. He lost in that game. Nah, the run defense and the inability to get off the field lost him that game. I thought, although Jordan Love, on his stat sheet, 2 interceptions, I thought he did really well in that game.
All right. Interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the game previews, we want to pay some bills and let you know that this stream is being brought to you all by Sleeper, ladies and gentlemen. Sleeper is the app that if you download, all you have to do is make a minimum deposit of $10 to get into the game. Sleeper, we're going to actually do our Sleeper picks. We're going to do it actually every single week, and we're going to use these guys to pretty much help us with these picks as well. Y'all give me a second here. Let me bring it up. There it is right here. So can you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Yep.
ladies and gentlemen, the link is in the description of the video. It would also be pinned at the top of the chat. Download the Sleeper app now. Supporting the sponsor is supporting the NFC North Roundtable, helping us do bigger and better things. But we want to start out with the Green Bay game. We want to go with Jordan Love. Should we go 2 touchdowns, an interception, or passing yards, Bass?
Out of all of those, I'd probably go. Oh man, I'd probably go 2 passing touchdowns. You know,
Over or under?
over. The Chargers
Okay.
have the worst passing D in the NFL. I think they're 32nd. So you could go either touchdowns or yards, however you want to look at it. So they're 32nd in yards, but you know, looking at that Lions Chargers game, I was like, okay, it's a shootout. Maybe the Packers can score a little bit of points on them. So yeah, I'll go over in that one.
All right. Any other ones that you would pick on here?
Oh, what do we have Aaron Jones on? Or what do we have Jaden Reed? Let's go Jaden Reed. I've been hyping him up this whole
36
over.
yards.
Slam it over.
Oh, wow. Got to make sure you said that with confidence. I got to remember that. All right.
It's totally going under. I'm sorry.
Well, let's move forward and let's get into the other ones aren't up yet. Thursday. They always do this. So Thursday night, the other games will be up, but I want to say this. I have to add the Joe Burrow over 219 yards. It's a promotion that they have right now, 15% off of his yardage. So that is going to be an automatic add-on. But I want to get from you guys real quickly here. Let me see. Where did it go? There it is. I want to get into the KC Philly game with you all real quick. Mahomes in this game, do you think that he throws for over 284 yards?
Yeah,
that's a rough one.
That's hard. We're all frozen.
Right.
Hey, man, I would say yes because they'll have to.
Or should we do the 2 touchdowns, 1.5?
I'd be higher on that than the yardage personally.
Touchdowns or yards? What do you got for me, One Bar?
Touchdowns, go over.
Okay, touchdowns over. I see here. Let's go Jalen Hurts. 2 touchdowns or 238 yards.
Is that passing touchdowns or overall?
Passing.
Oh, good.
Hey, how about over?
On the yards or touchdowns?
Yards.
We all agree?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, Travis Kelce, 75 yards.
Is Taylor Swift going to be there?
Yeah.
No, she's
go over, baby. Be over everything.
Yeah, I'll go over.
All right, real quick. I want to go to the Jets, and I want to go Zach Wilson. One touchdown. One touchdown, Zach Wilson. You said under, Dion?
That's good. I ain't going over.
You know what's crazy? They haven't scored.
I don't even need to see the number.
They haven't scored a touchdown in like 3 years. It feels, I believe.
Yeah, they're horrible.
It's been
I
so
agree
long.
with Dion. Go lower.
Oh man, but what about Josh Allen bouncing back in that game? Do you think he'll get 2 touchdowns or 255 yards?
Maybe go the interception over.
You know what? He hasn't.
Man.
Listen, the interceptions have been consistent every game, so that's a good pickup for you, Dion. All right, at 98%, a $10 bet will get you $980, ladies and gentlemen. $980. I'm gonna put that in later, by the way, and if it hits, we're gonna do a giveaway here on the show. But $980. Take advantage of the opportunity. Download the app now. Sleeper, the official sponsor of the NFC North Roundtable. Supporting our sponsors once again is supporting the channel. The link is in the description. Minimum deposit of $10, and they now change their betting where you only have to bet $1. You could do 8 plays for $1, still win a lot of money. So take advantage of that now. Now let's get into the matchups of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start with the Green Bay Packers going on the road to the Chargers. What do you got in this one, Dion?
I'll say we're home, by the way. We're home.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read that backwards. They are home versus the Chargers. Chargers on the road. What do you got, Dion?
Yeah, so for me, this is really the thing that I was kind of trying to touch on is like there's certain teams where I feel like weirdly Green Bay is going to actually match up well, and this is one of them. I'm taking the Packers in this one. I think they win this game. I think being at home is huge, so I'm glad you pointed. I think that's massive in this one, and I just think always having to play in Green Bay is just different. But I think also to that, I just think that the defensive line, maybe they've been a little bit up and down at times this season. I was praising their edge defenders a couple weeks ago, but that defensive line against this offensive line, I think the athleticism that they can bring to the table with I'm losing name Clark and Slayton, I think he can give this offensive line some fits. And I think kind of the same way for both sides. I think the way that they run the ball and A.J. Dillon had some success last week, I think they can have success against this team between the tackles. For me, I'm going Green Bay.
One bar, what's your take?
I think the Chargers are going to put up a ton of points. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to pick the Packers probably until that Giants game. There's no reason they deserve to be picked, and I'm not ripping on Baz too bad here, but they really don't. These last 6 games have been brutal, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Dion, you say the Packers can win at home. Well, they didn't do it against the Vikings. It was beautiful. But one thing with the Packers, they should be able to run the ball, right? I mean, whether it's Jones, whether it's Dillon, they should be able to do that against the Chargers in this game. But I think when it all is said and done, I think it comes down to the quarterback. So I think Herbert's just too much. He's just too much to handle with Keenan Allen.
Well, Veal, give us your take.
Yeah, I agree with one bar. I think it's going to be a much better game than the Pittsburgh game. Obviously, anytime any team really plays Pittsburgh, it gets a little wonky with their defense and the challenge of trying to keep up with the slow pace that they kind of run with. They're not really known as a fast-paced team in Pittsburgh. So I think as long as the Packers, as I believe one bar said, keep that run game consistent, like so that can help Love in the end, because he can make the necessary throws. He can make the hard throws at times. He's just inconsistent at times. So if their run game gets going and they can keep Herbert on the sidelines, I'm looking at notes. I'm trying to keep up with Keenan Allen's injury from last week. He's day to day. He was missed practice today. I think they're down Joshua Palmer. I'm sorry, and a couple of other wide receivers, and even Everett is down. So if they lose Allen or Allen is playing kind of gimpy, that's a situation to kind of monitor, and that could be one big reason why they pull off the win. I like the Chargers if Keenan Allen plays. It's hard to stop Keenan Allen. Like, he's just a monster even at his older age now. And then Eckler's back. That's easy money. But if Keenan Allen is out, I could see a squeaker win from the Packers.
Baz, talk to us.
I'm confused on this game, man. Like, Chargers are such a weird team when you look at them. As I mentioned earlier, the worst passing defense in terms of yardage. So I think, it does start with running the ball, but I think the Packers could also pass the ball decently well against them. Jair didn't practice today, as did Keenan Allen didn't practice. So that's going to be something very important to monitor. I think both of those guys change your prediction a lot on this game. As Bill said as well, Gerald Everett, I think Donald Parham. There's a bunch of receiving threats or at least guys that can catch the ball that are hurt for Los Angeles here. It's hard. It's hard. I think if the Packers can establish the run game, which watching the Detroit game, I go, okay, yeah, they can, but our offensive line isn't like that, right? Like, our interior of our offensive line isn't like that. So if we can establish it and Aaron Jones has a good bounce back game, it's at home, we're wearing our throwback jerseys. I think the Packers could win this game, man, like 28-24.
Okay. All right, Dion. Dion's there with you, man. Hey, let's stay with you though, Baz. Let's get into this Vikings on the road to the Denver Broncos. What's your take in that game real quick?
All right, so the last 2 weeks, I said Minnesota's going to come down to earth. I'm not going to do that this week because I'm always wrong about it. So I'm going to go Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota here.
Jinxing us, man.
Minnesota
You're jinxing
wins.
us.
Yep, I'm going to say Minnesota wins, even though Denver's playing well the last 2 weeks. Minnesota's just as hot as well, and I do believe in Dobbs at this point. So I'm going Minnesota 27-20.
All right, Veal, what's your quick thoughts on that one?
I'm still on the Dobbs train. I want to see another W, to be honest. I want the story to continue. Like, I want the story to continue, and then they miss the playoffs type of thing. So,
wow.
Sorry, one bar. There's no shot at you, but it's just I don't want to see anybody else be successful in this division. Obviously, I don't think any of us at all want to see that, period, for other teams. But I do want to see the story continue because it's an awesome story to watch. So
Interesting. Dion, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so this is a reason I haven't bought the Pampers yet. Haven't even ordered them. They might be sitting in the cart, but I haven't ordered them, and it's because it's because I got Denver in this game. Now, here's actually a real concern though, because my reasoning for taking Denver is also like halfway the reason I don't want to take Denver. They have to find a way to get pass rush. And you could argue Denver is the worst team in football at doing that. And I'm watching the Saints, and they're not a great pass rush team, especially when they bring four. And it's like, yo, you're letting him be comfortable, and there's problems there. But it's something I touched on earlier today. Denver is one of the best teams against mobile quarterbacks. They have been all season long, and I think that's going to limit this offense for the Minnesota Vikings this one. And then obviously they have some dudes in the back end like Pat Surtain, which can make it a little bit difficult, and like a Jordan Addison if they can keep those matchups consistently. But for me, yeah, I think their ability to really keep quarterbacks from taking off, I think they've only allowed just over 7 yards a game to quarterbacks this season, I think will be the difference. So I'm taking Denver in this one.
Wow, one bar. Let us know.
All right, I'll be quick. Dion, you're too big for Pampers. You got to get those adult diapers. They're in aisle 3. Trust me, man. You need those bad boys.
I like the ones with the fish on them. You know what I'm saying? They have like
Well, I'll say this. Baz probably just jinxed us. I was really hoping he's going to pick them up. The Broncos are favored, which still blows my mind. I know the Broncos are on a run. Vikings are catching the Broncos at the worst time possible. They appear, everybody's saying, this is the real Broncos team. This is what everybody expected, and they're playing very, very good. I got to hand it to them. Tight ends can feast against the Broncos. Hawkinson, he's going to have a big game. Justin Jefferson, nobody's expecting him back again yet this week. Josh Dobbs, let's see what you can do, man. 3 games in a row. Let's see if the story continue. Until the shit hits the fan, I'm not going to go against the Vikings, especially against the Broncos. Sean Payton's the worst guy in the world, so we need to beat him. So I do expect the Vikings to win. I think it'll be like 23-19. But one big thing is the Broncos are horrible against the run, and the Vikings are horrible running the ball. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out, especially with Ty Chandler as our lead back. But Ty Chandler, let's go. We've all been waiting for him. Come on.
Sean,
all right.
The evil villain.
Wait, why 23-19? That's a very specific score.
That's a Packers Steelers score, man.
Yeah,
Where are going with that?
I thought that was maybe a little subtle, like, hey, 23-19. That's crazy.
That's a dig, man.
23-19, man. Book it. Let's go.
Oh, man. Well, listen, Vikings, good luck, man. I think this is going to be a game that can really alter the division, but time will tell because the Lions have a juggernaut matchup this weekend versus a division rival. Detroit Lions on the road to the Chicago Bears. It's about to go down. We're going to kick it back off at one bar. Real quick, what's your thoughts on this before we get out of here?
Just quick, just to be clear, I'm going to be the biggest Bears fan ever this week. I want some crazy-ass upset. I want Justin Fields to play out of his mind, which, is a little asking quite a bit. But there's no reason the Bears should win this game. Veal, I know you're dancing, man. I don't want to break your heart. There's no reason they should win this game. It should be a blowout. We'll see what happens. My only hope is that Fields comes back and it's just the story for the whole week. Holy crap, I can't believe the Bears won. But there's no reason they should win. I expect the Lions to absolutely just blow them out of the water. I'm sorry.
Wow. What about you, Bass? What's your thoughts on this game coming up?
I agree. It shouldn't be a contest. Detroit should blow them out of the water, even with the Fields return. I think I saw someone in the chat say last time Fields played the Lions, did he get sacked 9 times? Is that truthful?
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, damn.
Man.
So I was looking at the chat there, and I was like, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that one. But yeah, right. No, seriously, Detroit should have a problem with this. If it's even close, I'm kind of a little bit worried about them. But Detroit's rolling. I see a 2-score victory, 31-17.
Veal, man, tell them why you're going to win, Veal. Don't let them do you like that.
We going to win for the same reason we should have won last year with a worse team. Fields is back. Fields is going to have one of those 2022 performances, but he finally has a healthy offensive line. He has DJ Moore, who is not a Dollar Tree cashier wide receiver like we had last year. So we have an improved wide receiver core. We have an improved run game because there are multiple guys that can get it. There's, you got Roshan that can knock the snot out of people going up the middle. You got my man Foreman, who's been beating down guys left and right. So hopefully we can slow down and kind of match that run game, because if we try to go pass happy, it's not going to happen. I think their pass offense is it's very innovative. If you really watch it, like if you're really a football fan, you should really watch guys like am I saying his name right? Ben Johnson, his offense, and several other guys like, obviously McDaniels down in Miami. But there's a lot of innovation. And as long as our defense can stay disciplined as they have over the last few weeks, even though poorer competition, and we can just kind of slow the game down and just make the right plays, we can pull out a victory, because I believe there's going to be one of those big.
Oh, wow.
I guess you could. I don't know what just happened. I guess you could say vintage, even though he's only been in the league 3 years. Justin Fields plays like last year that could cap the win as long as we keep it close.
Oh, Lions, by the way, Lions are home this week, so I'm sorry. But could you imagine a Bears victory? Dion, don't get nervous. Talk to us. What you think? Thoughts on this game?
To be honest, I can't even imagine it. Like I can't even think of that happening. The first thing is this: we're at home, and that's a big difference to what Bill was saying. Last year we played them on the road, man. That thing went down to the wire. That was a heck of a game. But we were at home. I believe its final score was 41-10. So it was a little bit different. Here's what I wish was the case. I wish that we could see Emmanuel Mosley versus DJ Moore. I wish that was a thing, man. I remember before he came over to Chicago when they matched up against each other when he was in Carolina. Like, man, that was a matchup, and we won't get to see that. But one thing I do know is last time we played them, 9 sacks. So right now I'm playing. Really, the thing is this, man. The thing is this. The Lions, if they can build up a lead in this game, I think things can get ugly. And I think that's what happened last time we played them, is that at home, we're able to put up a lot of points, and things can become a problem for Chicago trying to catch back up to that with how they want to play offensively. Really to what Bill said, right? They want to slow the game down, run the football, use Fields. And you start to kind of take that element away, and things just became kind of a mess. Their passing game was so limited. And I think it's not as limited this year round because they have more weapons, but it really limits who they want to be. And I think that would be the issue if the Lions can build up an early lead in this game. They have a lot of things in the trenches that you like, but I do feel like the Lions' trenches are even better. Even though the stats would say, man, they're neck and neck on a lot of these spots, I think the Lions are just better there. And I think they're also better at playmaker right now as well. So, yeah, I think the Lions handle business. I think being at home is huge for this one.
Interesting. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the NFC North Roundtable. Dion, let everybody know where they can find you.
Man, you can find me at your local Walmart, Target, CVS. No, Dose of Dion 2.0, man. That's it. That's me on YouTube. And then my Twitter has a 0 before. Is 0 Dose of Dion for summer. I don't know. Just how about you, One Bar? Where they find you at?
Hey, all I gotta do is type in One Bar and Lupagus. There's no other results are gonna come up. One Bar and Lupagus show. There you have it.
Bill, let the people know where they can find you.
They can find me right there at 3 Point Stands Pod on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm even on TikTok with the highlights, throwing out the night. And I'm not, biased. Like I do every team. Like if it's a highlight, I'm putting it up there. So if you enjoy highlights, check me out on TikTok as well. And I just started an Instagram. I guess I'm new to that. So same thing, 3 Point Stands Pod on Instagram.
All right. And Baz, let them know.
Baserski Productions. If you could spell it correctly on YouTube, you can find me on YouTube and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it at this point. Those are my 2 platforms. So if you Packers fan, want more content, find me on there.
All right, awesome. Well, make sure that you go check these guys out, subscribe to their individual channels. And until next time, we will see you right back here next Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, the stream is being brought to you by Sleeper. Go download the app, make a minimum deposit of $10. Supporting the sponsor is supporting the channel. I think we're going to have some fireworks next week because I can smell an upset going on in Detroit. But time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, peace. We are out.